We have to put on £3 minimum before we leave, to prove we enjoyed Christmas. Yes?
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 strangest rules the royal family has to follow.
There is a historical footnote here.
What's that?
My mother wore it at her christening.
Oh, really?
And so did I.
How fascinating.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
For this list, we're looking at the weirdest rules and traditions the royals must abide by. Let us know in the comments which you think is the most alien. Number 10. Separate planes. From a purely logistical standpoint, this makes sense, though it's still a morbid thing to have to think about.
Occasionally there needs to be an opportunity based on a unique circumstance to ensure that my family are safe.
It turns out that direct heirs to the throne and/or the monarch cannot fly on the same plane because of the damage it would do to the line of succession if there was a crash. So, King Charles, Prince William and Prince George aren't supposed to go on a plane together. However, they don't really stick by this rule, and Prince William has many times flown with Kate and their kids. And in the modern era, it doesn't look great for the CO2 emissions to have the royals on numerous privately chartered flights to the same destinations.
He's been criticised for using private jets, so launching an eco-tourism project in Amsterdam seemed bizarre.
Number 9. No wearing black. A few hundred years ago, the rules about periods of mourning and mourning attire were rather a lot stricter than they are now, something Queen Victoria famously took to the extreme. But for the rest of the time, royals are forbidden from wearing black outfits. They're reserved only for solemn occasions, like funerals or Remembrance Day. Many have broken this rule as wearing black becomes more normal, however, including Princess Diana. On the other side of things, royals must always have a black outfit with them when travelling, just in case something tragic happens. It all dates back to the death of King George VI, as the Queen hadn't taken anything black with her on her tour of Kenya. Number 8. No shellfish. Another rule that's often broken is that the royals are banned from eating shellfish. Is this because the Queen personally hated this dish? Well, no. It's because shellfish has such a high risk of food poisoning if it's not cooked right. The Queen didn't want her family to come down with food poisoning, and especially not in public. If they did, this would both potentially be a show of weakness, as well as risking their health. However, the new king reportedly enjoys sushi and other banned dishes, so this rule could become less strict in future. Number 7. No Monopoly. Many families enjoy a game of Monopoly every so often, but what do you do when your relatives are all so cutthroat and competitive that every game descends into barbarism? While Monopoly often ends that way even for those who aren't royal, apparently, the stakes are so high in Buckingham Palace that the game is now banned from being played. It was specifically the Queen who decided this, revealed by Prince Andrew when he was forced to refuse the gift of a game of Monopoly given by Leeds Building Society. Since they're all still on bad terms with the disgraced Duke of York, we're not sure they'll be playing Monopoly with him again anytime soon anyway. Number 6. Shorts. Yet another example of the royals' weirdly strict dress codes. It's still a tradition that young boys in the aristocracy don't wear trousers until they reach a certain age. That's why Prince George was, up until the age of 8, only ever seen wearing shorts in public, even in the dead of winter. This bizarre rule isn't too strict, though it has been followed consistently and extends beyond the royal family to the whole of the British upper class. It's just something they do, keeping boys wearing shorts all the time until they're older. It's a strange thing not to let a child wear trousers, even when it's snowing outside. Number 5. Myrtle. Ever since the wedding of Victoria, Princess Royal, in 1858, royal brides have carried sprigs of myrtle in their wedding bouquets.
And the veil being held there in place by the Queen's halo tiara, which has been loaned to her specially for this day by the Queen.
And it's not just any myrtle. It comes from a myrtle bush that was actually gifted to Queen Victoria in the 1800s. They carry it because it supposedly brings good luck. However, anyone who's looked at the royal family over the last century can see that it doesn't seem to have worked.
And what a sight.
They've endured many crises, but most notably, all of the Queen's children, and indeed Princess Margaret, got divorced despite the myrtle rule. It goes to show just what sticklers they are for tradition, that they still won't ditch it. Number 4. Christmas weigh-ins. Possibly one of the most notorious royal family rules, it's now known that at Christmas, it's mandatory for dinner guests to be weighed before and after dinner at Sandringham.
Ma'am, Her Majesty herself just a second ago said on these scales. She was very insistent that everyone joins in.
This was shown in the 2021 film Spencer, as Kristen Stewart's Princess Diana clearly hates the tradition.
To make sure everyone joins in.
They said, no one is above tradition.
Okay, fine.
However, the palace justifies it by saying it's to ensure the guests have all been well fed over the Christmas and New Year period. They don't want anyone saying they haven't had the biggest, tastiest Christmas dinner of all time during their stay with the royals now, do they?
We have to put on £3 minimum before we leave. To prove we enjoyed Christmas. Yes?
That is the tradition. It was Prince Albert in 1847 who began it.
But then, everybody else in the country who hosts Christmas dinner manages to do so without forcing people to get on the scales. Number 3. Mandatory christenings. It's becoming increasingly common for parents in the UK to forego baptisms or christenings entirely, and many won't do it because they want to leave it up to their children whether they get christened or not. That's not the case for the royal family though. The monarch, as well as being the head of state, is also the head of the Protestant Church of England, which means it's mandatory for all royal children to get christened into the church as well. We understand this because of the king's position in charge of the church, but it's definitely archaic. Plus, the royal christenings follow the exact same order of service that they did nearly 2 centuries ago.
There is a historical footnote here.
What's that?
Her mother wore it at her
Oh,
christening.
really?
And so did I.
How fascinating.
Number 2. Stop eating with the sovereign. We've all been having dinner when the most important person at the table decides they've had enough, so everybody else must stop eating too. Unless, of course, you're a normal person who isn't part of the royal family. If you are ever given the privilege of dining with the king, this is a rule that needs to be followed. When the king stops eating, so should you, because that means the meal is done. This is not only weird, but could lead to food wastage if you take longer to eat your meal than he does. You're also not allowed to go to bed before the king, something else completely ridiculous. Number 1. No voting.
A very good evening. For the 4th time in the space of 5 years, the future of the United Kingdom is uncertain.
This one is both totally understandable and completely alien, all at the same time. Despite some of the royals, like the late Queen, being consistently popular with most of the British people in the polls, nobody likes the idea of them having a say in our democratic elections.
The question tonight is whether any party can get 326 seats or more and send their leader through that door with a majority.
As such, the royals, unelected as they are, aren't supposed to let the public know their political opinions and aren't meant to intervene in government.
Our exit poll is suggesting that there will be a Conservative majority when all the votes are counted after this election.
But on the other hand, they are British citizens just like the rest of us, and the idea of them not being allowed to vote, something that many working class men and women fought tooth and nail for, is still somewhat odd.
you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojoUK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.